Hey everybody, welcome to Watches with Dennis. We're doing a live stream to talk about Watches and Wonders 2023. Obviously, I am Dennis, the host of the channel, and I've got a couple of guests with me who have been willing to make our way through. Obviously, we can't cover every Watches and Wonders watch because there are so many of them. But I guess let's go ahead and start some introductions. So I had sound coming in through I had something in the background I didn't realize was playing through these speakers and it was driving me mad. So Tony, do you want to introduce yourself? And are you wearing a watch?
Hi, I'm Tony, co-host from the Eclectic Gamers podcast. I collect a few watches and I'm big into the whole pinball thing. With Dennis, I am wearing a watch today. I'm wearing the most common walk around day-to-day watch I have. I've got my G-Shock rectangle, solar power, fun little working. It's one of those watches that there's nothing super special about it, but I wear it pretty much more than everything else just because it's the one I wear to work the most.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Tony. And Jayson.
Yes, I'm wearing Vicaria. I don't even know how this is pronounced. It's another Italian brand, Italian micro brand right there. Vicaria Calypso. They sent me this for review, and hopefully you'll see a new video in the next few days about it. And it's kind of neat, but there are some issues with it. So you're gonna have to.
I like the dial.
Yeah, the dial's awesome. The dial's awesome. They actually sent me two, and this one is the better looking one. It's kind of like that teal in color, the Tiffany in color, but this one's like fume and has a very nice texture to it. Very nice.
All right, and I do have a link to Jayson's channel in the video description here, so you can go and click him. If you've not already subscribe to him because his videos are better than mine. That's not reason alone to do it, but it's a good reason to do it. You're like, yeah, it's
very humble there. It's being
I love your editing thing. I was watching one of your older ones from a couple months ago today, in fact, and it was one where you're just answering viewer questions and you pull yourself out onto the to the tablet. I was just like, that's so cool. And I'm like, here, watch me pan a stock rendered photo of a Tudor. We're kind of doing two different levels.
That's my poor excuse of rambling because I couldn't even collect my thought and how to answer that question. So
it was the one where someone was like, you can't compare those two watches, and you're kind of like, yes, I can. I can do what I want. I had a similar thing on one where someone was like, that watch doesn't look at all like a Royal Oak, and I'm like, looks like it to me. I guess I'm right. I don't know what to say. And in terms of my watch, I'm wearing my my Seiko today. This is the SRPH 57. It's one of those Save the Ocean.
Look who brought the big guns tonight.
Literally big, because this is like my largest diameter watch today. But their rubber strap that came with it is really, I like it a lot better than the bracelet. I'm usually a bracelet person, but not that. And it's good evening, Kevin. And I do see Tony's already responded in the chat on this, but Scott had wanted to know if we're going to mute Tony during our discussion of the new Rolex models. No, he's a peacock. You got to let him fly. And that's how it is. And so we were just talking before we went live about Watches and Wonders. And, Jayson had brought up something I've seen a number of people share, which is overall, this has sort of been a more muted show than in terms of excitement versus what we've seen in the past couple of years. And I would concur. I do think overall, maybe in some ways, Rolex aside, and a few others, but which has been a little bit more interesting than they usually have been. A lot of the other ones have been a little bit disappointing. I did see this, though, over on Instagram that I wanted to share before we really got started. It amused me so much. This is from the Watch Humor Instagram. If you don't follow it, they put a lot of jokes out on there, but this one I shared with Tony a couple days ago, but it kind of felt like some people had discovered a graphics program and they were going to play with color this year, and we saw all sorts of interesting redesigns. Most of them colorful, some of them actually just a little bit different in terms of their shapes and sizes. And so the way we're going to go ahead and go about doing this today is we have actually I've got a few watches already selected for us to talk about, but we're not obligated to stick with those. We can actually go, and I will keep up the actual video of, I should say, the web pages of everything that we've got. Let me get the screen up here so you can see I've got it all loaded. We're on, by and large, I'm going to stick with the Watches and Wonders website so we can just hop to stuff. So if there's a brand any of you two want to talk about, or if the audience has something, and I'll probably build some polls out while we're going along just to see, like, when we talk about a particular watch, if people like it or dislike it or whatnot. And the one you can see, I've already got a bunch preloaded that we're already planned to discuss. So I wanted to hop to this one first. Here's one that I wanted to bring this one up because this is one of the few predictions I got right. JLC is going to do something very derivative on their Reverso. It's going to look great because the Reverso looks great, but it's going to be everything you would expect of it. And I think that's exactly what we got. We got a bunch of self-admitted homages to their 1931. This is something they've been doing for a while. I think they look incredibly attractive, and I think they look incredibly like every other Reverso that I've by and large seen. I'd like this design in particular with the small seconds. I have a Reverso that is a little bit more, I guess, modern, not the 1931 style in terms of the small second integration, but I really like these, but they're not particularly, I think, awe-inspiring. And JLC lately has really been doing a lot of price increases. It seems like they've been raising prices twice a year, which I think is a little interesting given that other than the Reverso, I haven't really seen a lot of stuff to get excited about from them. And I can only get so excited about the Reverso because it always kind of looks the same. So
that burgundy's gorgeous.
I love their red. This seemed like a page straight out of Mosier to me. So this was my favorite of all the ones that they put up. I think it looks great in rose gold. They do have a steel version as well that they rolled out, which I thought actually was probably the worst looking of them all, but it's, I mean, still it's clean. They golden ratioed it up like they always do. So what are your all's thoughts on it? Jayson, you want to go ahead and start?
Yeah, well, go back to the burgundy. It's just so nice looking. How much is that? That's like a rose gold burgundy model. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll see if I can pull up the pricing here while this sits.
Well, the Reverso's always been like a desirable piece in a watch in horology, so to speak. It's one of those both functional and at the same time aesthetically pleasing, and you can wear it. It really is a true sports watch that you can wear both as a casual and also as a formal attire watch. But yeah, again, like what you said, what you iterated already, this is kind of derivative of what JLC has been offering for years now. I like the new rose gold burgundy model. I'm kind of on the fence with the strap, and trying to reconcile my thoughts on that. I still prefer like the good old fashioned alligator straps on these Reversos. However, if there's a JLC that I wanted to talk about, it's their Flying Tourbillon Reverso. I don't know if you have that like pulled up for later, but that's actually a much better, and of course much pricier Reverso. But that has
not, but we can get to it. I'm sure.
I think that's the one that's on top, is it not?
Yeah, it looks like it.
That's it. Now that is a JLC Reverso. Now what makes this really interesting is that the kind of tourbillon that they used here and how thin this is. I think this is just 11 millimeters, if I'm not mistaken. That's what I heard Waco and the CEO of JLC talked about. Now the difference between a tourbillon and a flying tourbillon is that this Reverso, the flying tourbillon. Oh, okay, no, I think that's is that the same one? I think that's the same. No, that's a different one. But the flying tourbillon Reverso that they had, it's only anchored on one side. That's why it's called the flying tourbillon, right? A tourbillon usually is anchored on two sides of the case. So like this is like the upper case, this is lower case, and then the tourbillon sits in between. Where is it now? I think that one. That's I'm pointing at the screen, like you could see my finger. I'm using my iPad here. But
so you think it's the Reverso Tribute Duo Piece Tourbillon?
Yes, that's the one. That's the one.
Come on. I believe in you, website. Do it.
Yes.
All right. Yes. Yeah.
Putting Dennis to work here.
That's my job. That's the role of host.
There you go. So that's the side where it's anchored. You could see the bridge anchoring the whole tourbillon in the middle, right? I think that's the reverse side.
And here's the flying part. Yep.
This is the flying part. This is the actual side in front. And what makes that gorgeous is that it's a seamless circle around the escapement that you don't see any bridges unless of course you look hard enough to see the back bridge. But it's a very nice looking way at making a tourbillon. Of course, a flying tourbillon with a regular tourbillon functions in the same way. This is just more aesthetically pleasing and a little bit more challenging because you have to ensure that one anchor could support the tourbillon at the same time. It doesn't like wobble and all that kind of stuff. And I've seen some tourbillons here in one of our ADs, and JLC always like brings in the big guns when it comes to their tourbillons. It's not just a tourbillon; it's built differently too. It looks different compared to the others. This, I think, is the best JLC that they released this year.
Yeah, it's more approachable than that. What was it, 2 or 3 years ago when they had that quadra four-sided one, which was incredible.
It's too much.
It was a bit much. Tony, what were your? I mean, and if you have a different one of the reversos you want me to load up, let me know, Tony. But any thoughts on?
No, this is fine. I think this is the clear winner of the reversos, but all the reversos look nice. I mean, they always have looked good. They're just such a classic look anymore. But this one in particular, like Jayson said, it's simply amazing. This was the first one that really caught my eye when I was going through all the articles of the reversos.
Yeah,
this was the one that grabbed me.
I've always loved their duo face, but even a few years ago, when I ended up getting a non-duo, it was because the price delta between a duo and a non was so much that I was just like, oh, and I already had the cheaper ones are usually for GMT function. Jayson had asked about pricing, so the tourbillon here is $139,000. The ones we were looking at earlier, which were, I think, I just backed out of them, so that's fine. That's the regular ones. The steel model they came out with, that one was just $9,600 US, and then the pink gold versions, because there are multiple with like the red dial, those are $21,900. So because they are gold, so they always you always got to get a little bit more out when you're doing the 18 karat gold. But
now here's my question to you, Dennis.
Sure.
Since that's like 21K, right? That rose gold reverso. Which one would you pick? That or a Rolex 1908?
Okay. I would probably take. I mean, I'd take the reverso. That'd be my answer. But I would have to get rid of my steel reverso to justify. I don't want two reversos. So I would trade in my steel reverso or sell it against the new reverso, and then I get the gold reverso. I do have the 1908 for us to discuss because I wanted to do a video on it, and I was too tired, so I didn't. I figured we could talk about it. My problem. I have some issues with the 1908, even though I think it's incredibly attractive. It's gone into competition with the whole Calatrava and and Patrimony and everything else. And I'm like, you're up against some serious competition. And I just don't know if that actually, I think we could go ahead and jump to that. We'll just jump to that one. We can be freeform. But let me go ahead and end I did actually fire up a poll just to ask people, what did they think about the Watches and Wonders reverso reveals, and let me see if I can in that poll. I'm giving 3 choices because I mean, what else can you do? Like it, indifferent, or dislike. And in this case, no one said they disliked the reversos. How could you? It's a fairly safe design. 87% said they liked the releases, and 12% were kind of indifferent to them. So kind of what you would expect. So let me, so people don't have to, even though these should all be loaded up, you don't have to suffer through all of my horrid screen jumps and have people vomit all over the place. Here we go. 1908. Okay, so I saw this. For those that aren't familiar, Rolex retired the Cellini line, which was their dress watch line. I think they were only making one anymore anyway, but so they retired the Cellini and they launched this, the new 1908. 18 karat gold case, like you would expect, small seconds hand, kind of creative, like Breguet-esque hour hand within a different style minute hand. And then, their what I almost think of as their Explorer style 369 or 3912 dial configuration. Very clean though, very clean looking watch. I think it's very, very attractive. It does have a display case back, which is something that we've seen out of the Cellini line before, but I don't think the current model was doing it. And of course, there's something else we can talk about later if we want to that also has a display case back on the Daytona front. But I see all of this, and as I was mentioning, for me, my problem with it is, even though I think it's an incredibly handsome watch, it's in a very crowded space, so it's not that special either to me. Other than it's saying Rolex, like everything you see here is something you would get with the Calatrava. You could turn to the Patrimony, as I mentioned, which is Vacheron's version of the Calatrava, which is also a larger watch too. So if you thought Calatravas were kind of small, and I think this watch is a little bit bigger than the standard Calatravas are, but it's right there with the Patrimony. And then there's obviously you have the Saxonia out of Lange, which has the same sort of look. And then I don't remember what AP's one is, but they got one too. Everyone's got one of these like Great Depression era inspired Calatrava wannabes. And I don't mean it in a demeaning way, but it's like, I'm not sure that the movement finishing is on par with all those other brands I just named, even though it looks nice with its Geneva striping and its gold rotor. It looks nice, but like no nicer to me than what you would get on a display case back out of Blancpain. So the dial alone just isn't enough for me, and I would rather have something from the Holy Trinity at around the same price point. But
yes.
I think that's almost a requirement. I will be honest. I think this watch is beautiful. And then I heard the price point. I mean, you can get a Classique from Breguet cheaper. You can get Holy Trinity for the same price or cheaper. And there's just no way this watch is in the exact same breath as those other watches. When I originally saw this, before I learned the price, I was assuming 10 to 12K. And when I found the actual price, I was completely shocked, honestly. I mean, because you can get a Breguet Classique for under 20 that looks even better than this.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing is, like, it's not even that aesthetically pleasing if you being honest here for the dials. I don't know. There's something about the dial that seems too generic to me. I get that it's kind of like paying homage to where Rolex used to be designed from, but it's not doing it for me, especially when you could see the Patrimony. If you look at the Calatrava and like the Breguet Classique, like what Tony mentioned. But here's the thing: why do you guys think that Rolex abolished the Cellini and put out the 1908?
That's an interesting.
There's some theories and speculations around.
Okay, I haven't heard any theories. My theory was very, I guess, very crude, and that was that the Cellini had a bad reputation of as a watch that didn't hold value, and Rolex needed to just move away from that name. They're not used to having a failure of a watch, and that was a failure. So I think they were just like, let's start fresh, and we're just going to reboot. And we don't want anything associated with Cellini, because I think they're like, we don't want to be in the situation where Grand Seiko has to constantly explain how they're not regular Seiko. and it's not quite that bad, but I think when you're in the boat of, okay, well, people know, oh yeah, Cellini, that's the watch you definitely want to buy used because you're going to take a bath if you buy it new. So let's just restart. We're going to just restart and hit the reset. And I know a lot of people, and I see, and hello, Obese2, I see you're in the chat and that you like the Cellini. I think the Cellini had some very handsome designs. But that doesn't change the fact that you don't go and buy a Cellini retail. So, that was what my assumption it was, whether that's the motivation or not. What are these theories?
So one of them is like that this is released so that since you can't get the sports models immediately, the ADs can put out these. Hey, if you buy 1908, then I can move you higher on the list.
Okay.
And it's the same as like how Daytonas used to be, except that this one's like 22K. Well, that's
Okay.
That's what. most
Except
people-
for
not
just
most-
tiny thing.
Yeah, it's it's not a bad theory. I mean, that's the thing with like they say Longa will be like, here, do you want to buy some Saxtonias and Longa ones because you came in wanting an Odysseus, and we ain't giving anyone brand new an Odysseus, so you got to earn your. Or with Patek, you start with Calatravas. You don't get to buy the grand complications at the start. You got to earn it. So very, very interesting. Yeah, that I like that theory, and it makes sense to me. I don't know how many people would be willing to accept. It was easier when it was still a sports watch to get another sports watch. Going in and saying, here, you're going to buy this. Oh, by the way, it's gold, so it's going to be over 20,000 retail, and you're just like, I mean, I would be.
Yeah, does somebody want a dress watch that says that's got the crown on it that much to pay that kind of money when they could be getting a Vacheron? I mean, that's the thing is just surprising to me. It's like, I'm still fairly new to the deeply getting into watches. And even then, the Holy Trinity is a known item to me. And there's no way I can believe that a Rolex should even be in the same breath with the other ones as what you would be expecting.
Yeah, I mean, part of it, and that kind of gets to me in a little bit of what Scott asked here in the chat, which is about Rolex being the 800-pound gorilla, and why are they insisting on doing dress watches? My assumption here, again, my own personal theory is that Rolex doesn't want to end up in a boat where like AP is, right, where it's all Royal Oaks all the time. And what happens if the market changes and they're no longer, we sell out every sports watch we have? And I think there's a little bit of a desire for some diversification. So that's where I think some of the motivation is just not safe to just play in steel and expect, like, what if it changes? It might not. It wasn't all that long ago where Hulks, the Submariner green Hulks, you could go in and buy them at the AD. They sat. It wasn't that long ago. And so those days could come back. And I think Rolex is aware of that. And they're just kind of like, especially as they move more and more up market on their pricing with their precious gold sports line, professional line, as they would call it. I think they're kind of like, you know what? If people are paying $45,000 for a day date, they can pay $45,000 for a real dress watch. So,
yeah, that kind of makes sense. It makes sense. And the thing is, like, they're not, well, okay, there's actually, if you consider like the day dates and the day just like pseudo dress watches, I think this is like the actual dress watch that was, and it makes sense that they only offer it in precious metal, so that they can have, like, at least cover that kind of niche. And that, yes, like what you said, so that they don't fall into the same mold as AP is. But I guess that's not also. But the thing is, like, AP has this like one overwhelming pull or gravity with their Royal Oaks, and there's. Can we say that there's actually a model in Rolex collection that has that kind of gravity? What, the Submariner, Explorer? I don't think that's like, I mean, I respect the Submariner's history, the heritage, and all that, but it doesn't have, to me at least, it doesn't have that kind of gravity and impact as the Royal Oak is in comparison to the brand's overall prestige.
Yeah, it's it's almost more legendary than iconic. Maybe it's weird. So I'm not sure if that even makes. I'm not even sure that makes sense to me after I said it. I'm like, maybe I should put those words back in, because I'm not sure what I'm saying. I think back to, like, when I hear about Submariner. Like, Submariner was the first Rolex I knew about, but that was because Sean Connery wore it in James Bond, and I saw all those James Bonds, and that's where that came from. But, like, I was never particularly enamored with a design that has, quite frankly, been, if not copied and cloned, which it has been. There are so many other submersible oriented watches that just have that general look anyway. And the Royal Oak is a little more like, what everyone's copying when you see another Royal Oak. There are plenty other dive watches that have a lot of the same tropes of the Submariner that clearly didn't evolve from the Submariner. So, you look at all sorts of different like from Blancpain's 50 Fathoms to what, just there are other the Zodiacs and stuff. There are a lot of those same sort of things. What I think Rolex has done a great job about, and I know Tim Masso has talked about this quite a bit, is they don't do like this forced obsolescence. You can see in the modern Submariner, the old Submariner, they never deviated all that much. So, but I think you could say the same for the Royal Oaks. It just doesn't go as far back because you didn't start till like the 1970s. So, okay. So Tony, did you have any final thoughts? And thanks to everyone. I see I've tried to highlight them in the chat. We've had a few people pop in, so appreciate you all stopping by for our watch.
Yeah, I said,
and thank you, Jayson. Very kind of you. They ain't coming for me.
No, I don't have any final thoughts. I think we've covered it all pretty well. It's just it's a good looking dress watch, but it's just it feels like it's a minor league player trying to play in the bigs at that level of finishing. I mean, there is a reason the background picture on my phone is a movement, is a Lange movement, not a Rolex movement. And it's just they're different creatures.
That's true. And this is well, again, while there have been some Cellinis where they've done display case back before, Rolex historically, their movements are robust. I mean, some of the most robust in the industry. They're incredibly well designed movements, but they haven't always been all that great to look at. And while this one I think looks okay, I don't think it meets I'd need to handle it to know if it meets I'm sure it doesn't meet the finishing of a Lange, but Lange does the same level of finishing like on all of their models pretty much. And that's something. Yeah, that's one of the complaints some people have had at about Pateks is like if you get in on the entry level Pateks, you don't get the same level of finishing. But it is Patek, and it is a more prestigious brand than Lange, no matter what Lange might want. It highlighted Obisa's comment about preferring dress watches, which actually is my general aesthetic preference. I just find them more interesting. But then I ended up with 5, and which is why I sold a bunch of them off. Is because I'm like, I wear suit. Like I go, when I have legislative work and stuff, I wear suits. But it's like I don't think I need a Portuguese and a Santos and a Reverso. And it started to get like, what, Dennis, you're losing the plot here. So that was
you were moving towards owning more dress watches than you have suits.
And there's something.
I had more dress watches than suits. I don't need that many suits. So I don't wear them all that much. That's what sports coats are for, to save you money and not have to wear that full wool
That
outfit.
qualifies.
Yeah, it does. Thank you, Jayson. I justify it any way I can. So I did close out the poll asking people what did they think of the 1908. This one was much more split. 46% said that they loved it. 38% were meh, indifferent to it, and 15% actually said they didn't like it. So I want to jump to one that Tony wanted us to talk about. You didn't give me a specific one, so I've got them all loaded, Tony. These are the radio mirrors that Panerai
the radio
dropped.
mirrors.
These have been polarizing from what I've seen online. Some people hate these.
I've seen that too. I was specifically the Fotina ones were the ones I was looking at. The ones that they were talking about their process with their special Italian name that I forget now off the top of my head, to give them the weathered look built into it. And I was, when I first was reading it, I was like, okay, sure, whatever. And the more I looked into them, I'm like, you know what? I actually kind of like these. They just have their own feel. They don't feel like anything else really that had jumped out to me from the stuff I'd seen. And they just were kind of like, okay, these are kind of fun. And honestly, I kind of like the whole vintage seasoned look that they have.
I was going to ask
on.
that. Are those scratches? What's going on with the case?
It is, from what I've read, is they take the case and then they coat it in a thin coat of some sort of other like darker material, and then the case is hand polished to remove the material just until the person doing the hand polishing thinks it looks good, and then it's done to give it a more weathered look. So to give it a more vintage look out of the just straight out of the way.
I kind of like that. I kind of like that idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I thought it looked real cool.
yeah, the effect. I think I've got, I do have one of them that has that styling here loaded up on the screen, and I was glancing over because I know who Dinky had a write up on pretty much all these releases. So I was trying to see if they had a discussion on what they did. I know the case is that recycled steel scrap stuff that Panerai I think's done before. And let's see, retro motif, gradient dial, cases PVD coated to give the cases a distressed look. Interesting. Weird. Okay. The only thing for me, I do like the weathered look, and I do think they've actually executed on this sort of Fotina pretty well. Like I don't normally really like Fotina very much. And I don't think that I know some people don't like it because it's fake and that bugs them. For me, I don't like it because I think white loom looks better usually. So that's it's just a coloration bias for me. But I do like what we have here on the screen, except not related to the dial finishing, not related to the loom, not related to the awesome scratchy kind of PVD thing they did with the case. I've never liked this layout. And I like some watches that do like a 9 o'clock small seconds, but I've struggled to like the Panerai in general. And this dial in particular configuration has never worked for me very well. So it just, I don't hate it, but when I saw it, I scrolled right past it and didn't think much of it.
I'm not also averse to the Fotinas. I mean, I'm okay with that. But I guess that's the designer poking out of me, because colors like just part of the aesthetics. And when color is dynamic and harmonious with other elements of the watch, it just looks pleasing. And that's why we have like that. That's why the patinas became such a thing, because that came out of the watch naturally, and that's because of true use. But then if you could replicate that kind of aesthetics off the bat, and that I can't fault the brand for it. The only thing about like Panerai is like, as much as like I've been reviewing a lot of homage watches, I can't look past the Rolex case, the oyster case on the Panerai. I always see an oyster case on every Rajumir that I see. But I give them props, and I've handled some here, and I really do think they have like some of the best looms in the market. Even though whatever color it may be, they're really fantastic looms. So I guess that attests to the Rajumir nickname, moniker, right?
Yes, though hopefully less radioactive than back in the day. So we
you can grow that extra arm so you can wear another watch.
Since we were talking about these, I wanted to throw this. I wanted to throw this out here to find out about from you, Jayson and Tony. What do you guys think of California dials? Because I actually, I'm gonna use. I hate them. I'm gonna use a strong term. I do not like California dials. Never met a single one I like. But I'd love to know what you guys think.
I'm not a huge fan. It's something about the aesthetic of flipping between the two just bothers me.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. To me, I don't get the appeal. I don't know. I checked out like the supposed history of it in California.
Yeah, I remember reading something.
There.
Yeah, some watchmakers were, especially with Rolex, were making like aftermarket dials. If I read a piece about one company out in, I think California was doing Rolex. Yeah. I don't know if they only did Rolex, but some Rolexes got famous with them. So
it's kind of like, to me, it's like meandering. It's like it's halfway through being weird, but they're trying to be as uniform as possible. To me, it's kind of worse. I would have rather go through like either direction, either extremes, rather than like in the middle. It's kind of weirding me out.
Yeah, I think as I've tried to figure out, other than obviously we all have certain aesthetic things that we're not going to particularly care for. I think if I were to describe it, my fundamental issue is probably that it's trying to be fun and it's not very fun. It's like it's not fun enough to be fun.
Yeah, it's halfway there.
It's
like,
right. Yeah, halfway. It's like, okay, hey, I have an idea. Let's do something really quirky. Whoa, when we're in the boardroom now. Whoa, what's your idea, man? Like, bro, Roman numerals for half the dial, Arabic for the other half. I'm like, isn't that just like taking two dials and merging? Yeah, revolutionary. No, it's two of the same thing. We see all the time. You just glue them together. It's an abomination. It's a chimera. The chimera of
What
fail.
if you alternated it so it wasn't the top half is Roman, the bottom half is Arabic? You do Roman, Arabic, all the way around the dial. Just each time you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's probably called like an Oregon dial, and we ain't doing it. I don't know. Maybe if Rolex does it, it'll become cool. It'll become cool. So that'll
Trailblazer dial. Oh my god.
Yes. Okay. So let me go ahead and end the poll on the Panerais before we move on. And this one was 57% said meh, 28% loved them, and 14% hated them.
So there you go.
That's right.
There's the answer.
Exactly what we
All
said.
right. This is one Jayson brought up earlier. I actually did not see this one on the Watches and Wonders website, so we're going to pull an image up from Hodinkee, and let's talk about a Rolex. We'll talk about the fun Rolex, right? Rolex had some. They had two. We'll talk about the other one. We'll talk about the Dippin' Dots one here in a little bit, but the so this is the at first, as I'd said before we went live. This to me was, I thought, an autism partnership. Rolex doesn't do very many partnerships anymore, like the Domino's watch and so. I thought it was an autism awareness partnership because the puzzle pieces are something that's associated with a lot of autism efforts, nonprofits that work on spectrum issues. But then I found out that the date window at the 3 o'clock doesn't have the date. It's a bunch of emojis, and then the day window at the 12 o'clock says inspirational things. And then there's an inset gem for all of the hour markers that are on the watch. So, Jayson, I'm going to let you lead off on this one. So I got to say, I think Rolex got the memo that people were like, you're a stuffy company and you never have any fun. And they're like, we're going to have all the fun now.
No, it's like they had a box of ecstasy, and then like a pill of that like fell off, and Panerai like snuffed it. That's how this whole thing came together. I mean, okay, let's be honest though. I mean, this is like we were talking about like the two ranges of the spectrum. Rolex that just went past the other extreme. But this is going to be one of those collectibles, because I don't think that Rolex is going to keep doing this. This is going to be probably just going to be a one-off, this year only thing, and it's going to be one of those future collectibles. To me, I don't like it. I mean, like it's I have a preconceived notion of what Rolex is, and this doesn't seem like Rolex to me. However, if Rolex is willing to take this kind of like direction for their watches, then I'm really excited with what Rolex is going to do next year, because now they're actually trying to cater to the modern tastes, the rapper tastes, or like the new Instagram folks type of watches. And this is one of them. This is coming from Rolex, and make no mistake about it, there's some sort of like artistry going to it. They have like their proper set diamonds on their dials, and these are like unique day and date discs. And I don't know how limited they are. Are they actually limited editions or what? We don't know that, right?
No, as near as I could tell, like pricing hasn't been announced, at least yet. Availability hasn't been announced yet, and they did come out with a few other. In effect, I think the article we're on will show they did come out with a few other colorful ones. This puzzle one is definitely the most controversial because it's the one that actually changed the windows.
Yeah,
but they had a few others, but that's the one everyone's focusing on, of course, is because it's so different.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, this doesn't have any purpose to it other than to shock people, right? I think that's fair to say. I mean, like, if you're saying like this is not a collaboration between any foundations or like institutions and all that, then this is really just to be playful. And I like that Rolex is trying to go that route. Maybe it's not the kind of Rolex that I want anymore, but that's exciting. Actually, even though it's not my cup of tea, it is exciting to see that Rolex is usually glacial when it comes to their updates. They're now really trying to like push whatever they now. I want more on the technology side rather than the aesthetics, but I guess this is a nice direction to see from Rolex.
Okay, Tony, what were your thoughts?
I think that, like has been come up in the chat, and like we've talked about here, that this is a piece whose entire purpose is to get people to talk about it, and it'll be flippers heaven because they won't make a lot of them, and people will want them for certain reasons. I actually, the whole puzzle dial face, I'm pretty okay with, but the loss of the day date functionality on a day date just ruins it for me. I mean, if they kept that functionality and had the face, it'd just be, hey, look, Rolex, like Jayson said, Rolex got into the ecstasy. They're having some fun. They're trying something a little different here, and I'd be great with that. I think the loss of that functionality on a watch that's literally called the day date is too far. It's too much. They went too far over the edge.
Yeah, I guess in terms of like with the poll that the audience gets to vote on, I would put myself in the meh camp. Like Jayson, it's gone too far. Like this would never be a watch for me. Like even Mr. Jones watches let you read the time. And I guess this one still lets you read the time, but you can't read the day or the date. They've given up. They have the complications and given up the functionality to them. And that's what it feels like to me as a Mr. Jones watch. But that's going to retail for probably somewhere over $50,000. And as was noted by you, Tony, and by Scott, it's as a hype piece, it's going to trade hands a lot. There's going to be a certain type of person that's going to wear this. But because it's such fun jewelry, it would never be something, even if I had the funds, that I would ever consider because it's too far away from being a proper timepiece for me. That being said, I like the idea that they were willing to do something kind of fun with it and going more extreme. It's just not for me. So that's why I split the difference and I go, I'm meh on it. Yeah, I'd never own it, so I can't love it, but I can't hate it either because it's actually well outside of what I ever would have thought Rolex would have been willing to do. So I'm gonna give them credit here because I've been one of those people that's been like, I totally get the game plan. But after I'll tell you, I'm still bitter about that 50th anniversary of the Explorer 2. And I couldn't even tell it apart from the prior version side by side. And I saw someone's video who they highlighted, like circled the changes. And I'm like, I don't see them. I must be blind. I shouldn't be. It's like a 42 millimeter watch, but I can't see it.
It's the map hands.
Yeah. I'm still salty about it. But anyway, so in terms of the poll, let me go ahead and end it and let's see where this is at. Wow. Okay. So hate it wins with 50% of the vote. Love it was 33%, and meh it. I keep changing what the meh one is called in my polls because I have to type them on the fly. Is 16%. So which is. So I'm in the far minority on that one, but that polarizing is a fair statement based off of those results. So let's continue with our fun watches, but let's jump away from Rolex. And this is one Tony wanted us to talk about. It's Kermit.
It's the Kermit.
We got to talk about Kermit, right? I mean, it's Kermit. So this is Oris's new Pro Pilot X. This one all right. I wanted to claim partial credit. On one of these live streams, I did a few Watches and Wonders predictions, and like other than that there'd be a new version of the Black Bay, and there would be a new version of a Reverso that wouldn't really be all that inspiring. I've been wrong on all of them. This is the closest one I was also wrong on, but I'm going to kind of take partial credit. I said there would be a new Pro Pilot. The problem is I said it would be a more boring dial than the last versions they did, and I was completely wrong. It is even more extreme because the existing Pro Pilot X's that they have all are kind of they're like a little bit weird in the color schemes, but more muted than this. Holy crap. So anyway, Tony, this is one you want to talk about. So you lead us off. What's up with Kermie here?
It is. It's just one of those things that I am a big fan of the Orises, but I was surprised and like I think many were, just for this collaboration to be an actual real thing that happened. And I just really like the color. And I'm not even a huge Kermit the Frog fan. He's not even my favorite Muppet, but just something about this watch, every time I see it, makes me want to smile and makes me like it. Between that green coloring, and I do have a love of green dials, and the Kermit in the date for the one, just something about it just makes me happy. I think it's important to go with those things that make you happy.
Yeah, and I'll pull up I'm gonna research the pricing here. I want to think this watch was I did a short on it, and I think I checked the price for that. I believe it's 4,600, which it's
I
not
thought
actually
it was close to 5. Yeah, somewhere in there.
All right, so it's 4,400 Swiss francs according to Hodinkee. So yeah, I think it was 4,600 US. It's not limited though, but that is more than the other Pro Pilots happen to be. Yeah, it's in terms of my general thoughts about it. It's a cool watch. I like that it's fun. I like that Oris is willing to do fun stuff. I don't know if Oris has a huge catalog. I've looked at it from time to time. I've never really associated them with fun watches. I've always just associated them with just a lot of different watches, and they've really been pushing like their in-house movements with the longer power reserves and stuff, and flexing into that. I actually really liked the Pro Pilot X when they came out. I think it was last year. He doesn't literally sit in the date window, by the way. This is false evidence. He's just
that's from the music video that they made for it.
I didn't watch the music video yet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The music video is it's an actual. They have a song and an actual music video for it. And it's great.
And so, yeah, the only thing is a lot like this would have been a little more interesting had this come out last year, which, was when all the green dial watches came out, because it's so different than any other green dial watch. But bottom line is, I mean, at close to $5,000 for a Pro Pilot that I think I'd probably find pretty limited in its wearability. Green goes with a lot, but I don't know if Kermie green goes with a lot. So I would probably start. I don't know. It's fun, but it's more than I would have hoped it would have been. But Jayson, what do you think?
No, it's too much for me. I have a soft spot for Sesame Street, but this is too much. Not on an Oris. I always thought like Oris is. It's like a tool watch, professional device for many people. I have an Oris also, and that's always the impression that this brand has for me. But I cannot fault them if they want to go this direction. Also, you've seen Rolex go through this fun, quirky direction. So Oris wants to go that way. That's fine, but this is not something that appeals to my taste at least.
What Oris do you have?
I have the Aquas.
Oh, okay.
Aquas.
Yeah, I know Tony is a big fan of the big date, the pointer date.
Yep, the Big Crown pointer date. It is the number one thing on my grail list currently is a bronze Big Crown pointer date blue dial.
They released another Pilot that had an altimeter. An improved.
Yes, they did, and
that's the one that I like.
That one was pretty cool too, because it's the all mechanical altimeter and everything. That was cool when I was reading about that one.
That was
cool.
I
finally read up on that one this morning, and I was like, holy cow! I'd need to read it again to understand the tech behind it, because it's
mechanical.
Very interesting, very niche, but a very interesting.
But they've done this before also with their divers,
yes.
A mechanical depth gauge or something like that. It's like it's really just physics on a watch, which is amazing, because you don't expect that at such a price range, because and yes, I see that G-Shock would collab with the Muppets.
That would have been.
It would have been, yeah. But yeah, that's my impression of Oris. And for an independent operating at least in the affordable range, Oris is still one of my go-tos.
Yeah, I've still never owned one. I've come close a couple of times. Of course, now with so many in the in-house movements, and you go up in the price tier more, it starts to make it a more challenging proposition. Though I do love what we've seen so far out of those new movements. The power reserves are nice. One grows weary if you want to set the watch off on a weekend to have a 38-hour power reserve, but. I rotate so much now, honestly, it doesn't matter much to me. They're all dead. They're all dead by the time I pick them back up.
Not my problem.
Yeah, it's not. Yes. So, all right. So the poll on Kermie, let's see. We had 71% said they love Kermie. No one said they hate it and that the Muppets are lame. And 28% said meh. It should have been Miss
cool.
Should have been Miss Piggy. So
Well,
I actually,
I would, on the G-Shock collaboration fun with Muppets, I would love to see an animal Mudmaster.
And then when you press it, like he would come.
Yeah, exactly.
They could do. I know they've had some characters on the screens before. It could be like that one that came out and no one could read the time because the character in the background overshadows all the time. That one with the purple, whatever it was. I don't remember which one it was.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And whoever said that the Muppets are lame, they're going to be banned from my show.
No one chose that one. It was 0%. But I wanted to make it even more pointed in the poll. So if you said hate it, you also had to say you hate the Muppets. So I may have steered people away from the choice because of that. But
yes, the monster. Jesus.
That would be awesome.
That'd be awesome. There we go.
Make it happen, Casio. Quit doing Mario Brothers stuff and make it happen.
If they won't make it happen, I'll at least make a mock-up of it.
Yeah. Mario Brothers is the domain of Tag. They can go and do Cookie Monster instead. Yeah. Let Tag have its one fun thing. I mean, come on, guys. All right. So I wanted to, so this one's one of mine that I grabbed just because I kind of felt, I've always feel like I want to talk about Cartier every year. So they, and I didn't want to talk about the tanks because, oh yeah, I was right about that one too. Yeah, they look more tank musts with different colors, of course. That was an obvious guess. So what I didn't think was that they were going to go back and touch up the Tank American, which I think is their second most modern tank design. I think the Française is actually the newest model of tanks, like in terms of the broad families, but the American was a late 80s watch. And so they kind of gone back to the more classic design of it. They've got finer lining, and it's like the big one. If you want a big tank that's really long on the wrist with a big lug to lug, this is the model you go with. I didn't know if anyone had any thoughts on it. I just wanted to throw it out there as something that I didn't think about, but I've always kind of liked the American. But my rule of thumb has been I prefer the Reverso line to when it comes to rectangle dress watches to tanks. So I never turned to tanks, but if I were to turn to one, this was always the model I liked best.
I think this is the model that would look best on my wrist just because of the size of my wrist. But I'm like you, if I was going to go to a rectangle, I'd probably go to
Yeah. Same here, because the Reverso has the better proportions. This looked like it overstretched, by a few millimeters through the lugs. And also I had started tank the must, and that is like the better proportioned tank, at least that I've owned. And this is like kind of like it got stretched too far, but I get it. It's the Cartier way of aesthetics, and when you see it from afar, you can't mistake it for a Reverso. Actually, this is that's the strong point of this. Even though it's both rectangular watches, you know that this is a Cartier because of that inner track and because of the Roman numerals and just how they design their proportions. But it's a extreme proportion. Also, another thing that's the Reverso gets right. It's the proper, not proper. It's like the desirable, the golden ratio proportion that they got.
Yeah, I was
just right.
Yeah, I was it's sort of like it's mathematically right. Maybe is a good way to
Yes.
say. It kind of reminds me of like Longa ones, and it's like it's mathematically
Yes.
precise.
Yes.
That's the motivation. Whereas
The
I will
gold-
give Cartier credit in the sense that they're like willing. They take a lot of chances with design, and that's probably because they're a jeweler and I think they're just used to like thinking, let's just be creative. Do like really weird stuff like the crash, and then sort of more in between things like let's just stretch the hell out of a tank and see if what happens with it. And we'll
Yeah,
call it the
well,
American version because they're trashy. So
it's a design principle too. Make no mistake about it. It's a design principle, exaggeration. When you see like those caricatures of like exaggerated ears and noses, you could easily see if that's the person, even though it's completely blown out of proportion. Like say for example, Will Smith. If an artist draws Will Smith in a caricature style, and he just exaggerates the features of the actor, and you could readily see, oh, that's Will Smith because of the exaggerated proportions. It has that kind of identity and visual recognition. That's why you could say, yeah, that's a tank, that's a Cartier, because you know that's they're exaggerated proportions. But that's also my problem with it. you know.
yeah, and I see we had someone in the chat. I'll try and load one up here because again, this is one I don't know if it was actually on the Watches and Wonders site, but I've seen articles out about it, and that would be query about the green Santos. So, Jayson, you were nodding, so I assume you've actually looked at some images already. So if you want to start talking about, I'll find one to show on the screen.
Actually, I didn't really do any read ups on it, but I've seen it. It's the Fume Cartier Santos green dial. It's just the next. If you can't get the Moser streamliner in green, you get this. That's the other appealing factor to it. I don't know if Cartier has ever done a green dial on the Santos. Yeah, there you go. It's just amazing. It looks very, very nice.
I love Fume.
It's a very minute change. It's just releasing a green dial instead of a blue dial, But this one is a little sort of smoky Fume dial. It's just gorgeous looking, If I can't get a Moser, I'd rather get this. I guess both are attainable anyway, This is how much.
It is
14 or 15, something like that.
Yeah, we're
Maybe
unsure
around
if it's known, Hodinky will price it. Well, it's TBD.
Okay. It's a stainless steel, so I think it is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So nothing really special. It's just a pleasing color, and it's not in anymore, I guess. Do you guys think that green is still in? I think it's still relevant, but not as in like as 2 years ago.
It's yeah, I mean, I've heard that like in the Middle East, for example, green's always a very popular color. So there's probably always some sort of built-in demand, but I think the green fad is over. We still are obviously seeing a number of there was
it's still relevant.
Yeah, that Kermit aside, there was that Laureato that came out a few weeks ago, the ceramic Aston Martin one. That's a very green approach to the watch. We've seen this. We've seen a couple of other models that have come out, but yeah, we're not going to see the same saturation. So yeah, I'd say we're past the fad, but it's kind of like bronze. We're past the bronze case fad, but we still see bronze watches coming out. There's still a niche that really likes the look of it. So that's where I think that comes from. I personally am a big fan of the Santos. That's actually the model of Cartier I like more than the tanks, probably in part because it's so, all right, we're going to go full square instead of leaning more towards the rectangle. It doesn't feel like it's competing with the reverso. I had a Santos 100 for a while. It was actually a bit large. And I know these are much more modest, and these come in a couple different sizes as well. But the Santos 100 years were like back when everyone was trying to wear watches like Stallone does, in a very large. They wear well because they curve them.
Yeah.
But, and obviously I haven't handled this green one yet, but I have handled some of the Santos Dumonts that they've had recently. And they're really, they're comfortable, they're light, they're nice. So yeah, I would say this, I like green because it actually, I think it wearability wise, I think a lot of people prefer blue because I think they just like blue as a color better. But again, if I'm thinking like if I'm wearing it in a more dressy sort of situation, green goes well with navy, it goes well with gray, and it goes well with brown, which are the three most common colors I wear in dress attire. Like, in suits.
So this is a Dennis watch then.
It would be. But again, I'm trying to cut back on my. I get it's kind of sporty, but I'm kind of trying to cut back on my dress.
That's what we all say, Dennis.
It's kind of sporty. Trying to cut back.
We're all trying to. I quit whenever I want.
I'm so proud of myself. I finally got down below 12 watches, and I'm trying.
You can only have one watch.
But then you're not a collector anymore. I don't know if you've ever done one of these, Jayson, but if you're one of those where they do the one watch collection,
I don't.
I can't, because you're not. If you have one of something, you're not a collector by definition.
It's not even grammatically correct.
Exactly. Wrong. So that's right. It's mathematically offensive.
It's grammatically offensive either.
Tony, did you have any final thoughts on this one?
No, I'm pretty neutral on it. I think the green's a pleasing color. I prefer Santos's to tanks, but again, I'd probably just get a reverso.
Yeah. Enabler.
Don't
blame us. We're just talking about watches. You're the one watching it.
Yeah. that's yes. Yeah, we're just chatting.
Yeah.
The one thing I would point out, though, for anyone who has not had a Santos, those bezels, those polished bezels are scratch magnets. So you were one of those people that freaks out over every little scratch. Do not get a Santos because your heart will break.
I've learned to live with it.
Yeah, you really need to. You need to learn to live with it. Otherwise, you will be miserable. It's just you gotta really love the scratches. Speaking of love, Tony, I think when I was asking for ideas on specific reveals you wanted to talk about, this might have been the first one you told me about, the Odysseus. This was the one reveal that I was aware of that Lange did, which was not my prediction. I thought Lange was going to just turn out another. I thought they'd do it. Actually, I was fairly specific. I said I thought they would do an annual calendar version of the Lange one. They did the Perpetual last year. They don't actually have an annual in the line, and I thought they'd want to do something that was sort of in between the price deltas of their moon phase watch and their full-on Perpetual calendar watch. And no, instead they did a new chronograph, new steel watch, which people love. The Odysseus. Go ahead and start us, Tony.
It is just one of those. It caught me just because of how different it is in the way the chronograph runs, being that the small seconds are just standard running seconds, and its actual timing is the red center hand is the chronograph seconds, and that other super long like lozenge silver hand is the chronograph minutes that tick around. And then when you reset it, they spin back to vertical. Yeah, it is weird. It's just super weird.
Wait. It's okay. I don't get what you're saying. So the red one is the chronograph hand, right? The red one.
The red one is the chronograph seconds.
Uh-huh.
And then there's the really long silver one that you can't see because it's under the red one.
Uh-huh.
Right, that one. That is the chronograph minutes. So as the red seconds go around, the minute clicks. And then the smaller hand that on most chronographs is your chronograph seconds is just your normal running seconds.
That is cool.
It is just super cool and so different. And when you see the back is just
gorgeous.
The movement's just gorgeous.
Yeah. But how do you activate it? Because I remember the pushers.
It's got two pushers at the 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock.
Yeah, they're there like a lot. They're right here on the case sides.
Yeah, no, but I thought that used to be for the date and the day, right? So now they changed it up.
They changed it up, and for the date, I'm trying to remember. There is something you have to do to do the date as well, but I don't remember. I read it and I forgot about it. I forgot exactly what it was.
I'll see.
Because I
But
thought they
pull
went
it up.
the Patek route that they have like 4 pushers. No.
Yeah, because originally, the day and date was done by the pushers, but now it controls the chronograph.
Okay. That's cool. That's cool. Kind of like that.
But I mean, it's a Lange, and there's going to be 100 of them, so it is going to be just
Nobody's gonna get it.
Nobody's gonna get it,
Except
and
LeBron
it's
James and, you know.
yeah.
Man.
But no, Neff in chat says the pushers work the dates when you have the crown pulled.
Oh
wow, that's even
wow,
more.
that's
even better.
that's. I didn't think they. Okay, I was like, I
Wow,
didn't even think
actually
they'd do
cool.
that.
Wow.
Okay, all right, yeah, I'd loaded up a dinky article to see what they were going to say on it. Okay, that's right, because like on the regular, like on the Langes, yeah, they have a pusher. They put it on the other side on that model, but okay, so wow.
Wow.
So they let the crown position determine what the chrono pushers are going to do.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. It is one of those just insane bits of engineering.
Yeah, Scott might be right. This might actually be overall the most interesting.
It is
kind of like when
when
JLC had the weird Quadra whatever a couple of years ago. That looked
this
like
is
it was
for
cool.
this year. I
Yes.
say that. This is for this year. Look at that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Wow.
Okay, so everyone's in agreement that it's amazing.
It's amazing.
Let me go ahead and see. And I forgot to. I didn't do a poll on the American because we didn't have a lot of thoughts on that, but I did actually do one on the Santos with the chat, and they were 66% liked the green Santos and 33% were indifferent to it. And then in terms of the Odysseus here, the vote was 85% loved it and 14% were indifferent to it.
Okay, that's fine.
It's because it's not. It's because it's not Swiss. It's because it's not Swiss. That's an anti-German contingent in the chat.
Anti-German bias.
It's fine. I can accept that so long as you upvote and rewatch this video 5 times. Yeah.
Yes. So the next one I wanted us to jump to. So let's go. We haven't talked about Tudor yet. So Tudor had a few releases, none of which were exactly, I guess, thrilling. Though that might depend on your perspective. There were again. I said there'd be a new version of a black. I think I was wrong. I think I said there would be a new version, a new dial color of the Pelagos, which wasn't announced, and the new dial iteration of the Black Bay 58, which they didn't do. This is a regular Black Bay, a 41 millimeter. So this is their new. I'll load up the full spread of images, but this is their new Black Bay 40. Right, I want to call it a Black Bay 41, but it's Black Bay line meta certification, which is something that I think they'd only done on one watch thus far. But they brought back the burgundy dial. This was or burgundy bezel. This was something they had done, I guess, in their past a couple of times, but that was before I was into watches and I wasn't aware of the
Is it
historic.
Still matte? Is it still matte bezel? Is it still matte, or is it glossy or shiny?
Let's see if we can get a closer look to it.
Because honestly, I'm so, uninterested with Tudor's releases this year. I didn't even bother reading up any articles about them.
Right. It still looks matte to me, like it's still aluminum.
Because it kind of looks like it, right?
Yeah. And I know I had read one article on it briefly, and I didn't see them say that they had gone to the ceramic insert, which is normally that's like the easy mode way to make it a glossy dial. And that's actually been one of the biggest complaints I've seen people say about Black Bays in general is they really wish they would finally turn to doing the sapphire. But I assume Tudor continues to double down on the use of the aluminum because it's the historic vintage look that you get. Likewise, I assume why they continue to do the faux rivets on the bracelet. So this one does have an option to come on a Jubilee, which would let you avoid that. avoid the fake ribbit. Well, I keep wanting to say ribbit like it's Kermit.
Kermit.
Look.
Ribbit. So many fake ribbits.
Well, maybe they'll release a totally different line with a sapphire bezel, which makes more sense. But then there'll be like lookalikes of Black Bonds, 55s and all that. Are these gilt? Okay. Well,
Built? Did you ask? Sorry,
gilt.
I was typing.
I mean, are they gilt?
Oh, gilt. Oh, sorry. I thought. Yeah, I think they're the standard. Let's see if I can get a little closer here. I think they're the standard black with gilt, kind of like what they did with the 54 line.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell with all the loom, but it looked to me like, yeah, it was your usual gilt look. That I really like the gilt that Tudor does, but of course the thing is we've seen it all a lot. Like a lot. I had one for a while. My Black Bay bronze was the black gilt style dial.
Is this the first time that they came out with a Jubilee?
On the Black Bays, I thought it was. Let me see if.
Yeah, I think this is the first time I've seen.
Yeah, and these are the T fit also. So the T fit is the bracelet, the micro adjust where you don't need the tool that they introduced with the Black Bay 58 bronze, and so they're starting to roll that out. Which I've heard very good things about the T fit system. A lot of people really like it. So.
And that's a plus. Okay, that's a plus.
And I do see we can get to this one in a little while, so don't worry. Yeah, with Chopard, I did do a video on that one because I thought it was very attractive. I love the Alpine Eagles though, so I'm a little biased. But let's see. Neff has said the Alpine Eagle. Oh, he's talking about Alpine. We can go to that in a minute. Still prefer the Etta Smiley, yes, but everything's going in house on the Black Bay line. And let's see, the new BB54, the same movement. The wire resistance is 11.2. I don't get it. Oh, in terms of the thickness. Yeah, the water resist being. Why is this one so thick? Again, I think this is just sort of them going with their traditional proportions. With holy crap, everything's big now. I zoomed in so much. In terms of the, this was the first like Black Bay setup, and they were all, other than the bronzes, they were all 41s. Bronzes were 43s and still are, other than the 58 line, which came in at the 39 millimeters.
And how much is this? $4,000? $4,000?
It's just under 5, I believe. Let's see, what's the pricing in Swiss francs is 42.50.
Oh, okay, all right.
So yeah, it's about 45 to 5,000 US dollars. And yeah, I can tell with this zoom in, this is matte. So
I'd still go with a Seamaster, honestly.
Yeah.
Having owned a bronze iteration of the Black Bay and a Seamaster 300M, I would agree. I think I like the ceramic bezels. I know Tony has a dive watch with a ceramic bezel. I like that they don't scratch. I like that they're shiny. I think they're easier to read. There's something warm about the aluminum look, but you already get a lot of warmth with this like the gilt dial. I would do the gilt dial and I'd have ceramic this and just let the red shine. But I'm not a designer and I don't work for Tudor. I work for me.
Black Bays don't do a whole lot for me. They seem all right. It's just there's always something else I would rather have in the same lane.
I see Cloud Ken noting, and that's something that often gets discussed. Tudor has to make sure they're not doing anything that's too much in Rolex's lane. And if it's like the other prior years, I fully expect that Tudor is going to put out some other releases throughout the year. That's pretty typical. But they didn't. I wasn't blown away by really anything that they did. Obviously, the Black Bay 54 got most of the attention because that went back even more vintage. But it's all like when people are debating that they are upset about the loss of the red triangle on the bezel, and that's like your big debate. I mean, I don't know. Triangle gate, I guess we could call it. I don't know. Watch drama is already pretty limited in scope, but that in and of itself is pretty small fry as well. All right, in terms of the poll, 57% were meh, 42% liked it. No one said they hated it. I mean, it's an inoffensive watch. It would be hard to hate the Black Bay.
That's their new slogan now. Tudor, we're inoffensive.
You can't hate us. You can't hate us. Yes, we're inoffensive. That would. All right, this is one I did a video
Okay.
on, but Tony wanted to talk about it. And I love this watch. I love how this looks. I've never cared about I know Tony, you suggested this one, but I wanted to start because I'm like,
Go for
I've
it.
never before wanted an overseas. Like I found some and I thought, you know what? These are handsome watches, but I would rather have some other sports watch instead. I really, really like this. I have had some people post in after I did the video because the pricing was all TBD, but I've had a couple of people report it's going to be about 45,000 US. It's boutique only.
Wow.
And it just, I knew it would be over. I mean, I knew it'd be expensive, but I really thought it would be closer to 30.
Yeah.
But anyway, Tony, what are your thoughts on this watch? Because it caught your eye right off.
What caught my eye was for a watch. The overseas is, your kind of sporty daily wear for your if you're willing to go with a daily wear on a Vacheron, it's kind of your sporty type. But to include not just a retrograde, but a moon phase into a watch like that, those are just complications that I would not normally expect to see in that kind of type. And I love retrograde. It is such an interesting complication to me. I think it lets you do some neat things on the dials. But I just it was one of the first ones that had jumped out to me with it, and I just wanted to give it the love that I feel like it deserves.
Is this the first time that they put a retrograde date on a sports?
On the
first time
overseas line.
On the overseas line, yeah.
I heard somebody. I think it's Waco that pointed that out, which is like pretty neat. I mean, like if some folk out there that don't follow watches, what are you guys talking about? Like first time, what's the big deal about it? But well, I don't know. I mean, like that's how it is.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like wonderfully anachronistic and dressy in a sport. It's like like if you were to describe it to me on paper, because I have no imagination, I would have thought this sounded like a horrible idea. So you're going to tell me we're going to take a stainless steel integrated sports bracelet watch. We're going to stick in a moon phase, which is basically a dress watch complication. And we're going to stick in a retrograde date, which is to me is a very throwback looking style. Like, I don't think I think retrogrades look old. I don't think they look modern. And then you see how they've laid it all out. And it's got you've got your sunburst blue dial that the Vacheron overseas is known for and loved for. You've got this really clean execution on the retrograde. One of my biggest complaints was the boring 3 o'clock date position on so many of the overseas. And instead now you've made it take up so much more space, yet it's still so much cleaner. And you've got this nice gold plate, or it's not plate, it's a gold disc to serve as the moon phase, which that also is that's what they call it, one of those like highly accurate moon phases. It's like a reset once every 140 years moon phases. They put this on the liner, never service it, and yet somehow it still works. Yeah, meet all those conditions, and it's a moon phase you don't have to constantly need to correct. It's actually very precise moon phase. So it's impressive amounts of tech all stuck into their sports watch package, and then they put it behind the boutique paywall. It's just like, no, guys, come on, no, you got to put it out. You got to let your ADs have this. And they're like, no.
I mean, honestly, I think this is one of the most relatable Vacherons that you could find visually, because if you talk about like numbers on a dial, most people would gravitate towards like what Citizen's doing with all of their numbers in their chronographs, and that's what they associate as a sports watch. I know that because I used to do that, and I've owned a couple of Citizens too, because that's the ones that I could afford. But here, like what you said, they made the date interesting instead of just one window, and now you could see it, and there's actually a complication that's desirable on top of that, and then a moon phase, and the way they laid it out, it just makes it appealing. This with all of that realty space in the middle, at the same time, like there's a balance to the watch, to the dial that really makes it aesthetically nice. And Too bad it's a boutique only.
Yeah.
Edition.
Yeah, and and I saw someone. I'll put it up here. And Neff's comment in the chat. They did also unveil another retrograde.
Yes,
I did look
that's
at
the
it.
one that.
Yeah. And I noticed the same thing. Yeah, 42 millimeters was off-putting to me. But of course, this isn't a sports line. This is the Patrimony, which is like their Calatrava line, as I think of it. So I was like, okay, of course it works in the dress watch. But I'm trying to, Dennis, quit looking at dress watches. So I'm just like, it's way too big for what I would want in a dress watch outside of like a Portuguese. So I'm actually tolerant of large dress watches. I'm just lying to convince myself not to buy one.
That salmon dial is just
salmon works really well on a lot of.
It's so nice.
And the way that Vacheron does their salmon is different from others, and especially those blue accents. Yeah, it's kind of like that kind of muted, but the sun ray is kind of more satinated. They don't have those pronounced lines. They're very, very fine,
Interesting.
But
of course, their movements are great.
But the VC that I actually that took my attention is the other one, the one with the peripheral rotor. It's also, I think, a retrograde. There's another.
This one?
Yeah, it's a tourbillon. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm starting to learn, Jayson, that it's a tourbillon is the one that catches your eye.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But look at that, like whichever side you look at, it's like gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
Yeah,
the same setup, retrograde date, but then on the 6th is a tourbillon, and it has a peripheral rotor. I'm always a sucker for a peripheral rotor.
Yes, I really do like the peripheral rotors because they let you see the rest of the movement so cleanly. I also
that is nice.
When I saw this one, I wanted to note that normally I don't like skeleton dials at all, but this is one of the best executions I've ever seen of it, where it doesn't look like I can't read anything about the watch because you went so hard in terms of trying to show every piece of the movement possible that you've obfuscated everything that's relevant to telling the time. So.
Again, it's about balance. Look at how busy it is on the 6 o'clock because of the tourbillon, but then they counterbalance that with some of the movement elements on the 12 o'clock half. That's a Boston collector.
So they've had some interesting stuff as well. I will go ahead and close out our poll about that. We only did the poll on the overseas because that was the one that's getting all the attention.
Yeah,
and no one hated it. It was 77% like and 22% were indifferent to the. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah, they're doing all right. All right, we only had 2 other ones that I had planned, and then we will bring up the Alpine as well because I know there was a request for that. So let me scroll through here real quick. The next one I wanted to go bounce us back to Rolex to talk about the other fun one, right? I've heard this one a variety. What did you describe this one as, Jayson? You had a specific term, I thought, for it.
It's like the convoluted culmination of all of the Stella dials that they had. It's like
I've seen people mention that. Like when I first saw this, I thought it was balloons, and then my favorite I heard 2 other YouTube channels say is Dippin' Dots, the frozen ice cream dots. That this is the Dippin' Dot watch. I don't know if others have heard other things, but
I thought of it as a ball pit.
Ball pit. Oh yeah, ball pit. McDonald's playground watch. Yay! Those aren't very sanitary. We
this is
had
a
to
celebration
close
dot. They call it the celebration.
Yes.
For some reason. I don't know what to think about it. Like I know that's going to be like one of those other collectibles that they're going to release for 1 year and then discontinue it next year. Too playful for me also. I actually prefer the other one, the puzzle day dates, because at least those have like a more intricate dial, and at the same time you get those like weird and quirky days and dates. This is and how much? That's
interesting. This one I thought it was standard OP pricing, so I thought it was around 7. But I'll find the pricing. Tony, what are your thoughts on it?
It doesn't do anything for me really. one way or another. I would agree with Jayson. The day date puzzle one is a little better, and it would be a lot better if it actually had a day and a date in it. But for me, this is just meh.
All right. The model runs 5,400 to 6,100 Swiss francs, depending on size.
Wow. Okay. Oh, so
6,100 is the 41 millimeter.
There's two variations of this then.
There are
There are two sizes.
three.
Or three sizes. Oh, okay.
Yeah, 41 millimeter, 36 millimeter, and a 31 millimeter.
Oh, okay.
Wow, 31 millimeter.
Well, they always have a few ladies watch sizes for the OP line, but I actually like this one more than I like the day date puzzle watch we talked about earlier. But I'm still overall indifferent to it. Like, it would never be a watch for me, but at least this one doesn't give me a date window, and then I look at it and I'm like, why is a panda looking at me? So again, it's like it didn't panda me. I can't be pandaed. But
well, I guess
it's tough. But yeah, okay. No, it'll be a huge collector piece, just like all the I'm not sure this is a hard take, but I'll see what your guys' opinion of it are if you're familiar with them. I don't like the Stella dial OPs as much as I like the last iterations with the more sunburst styles they had, where they had the green and the grape, like the white grape and the purple grape or red grape, I guess we would call it. And the silver and stuff. They were much more muted, but I liked them better. I just thought they were more classic looking watches.
Yeah, I think they're actually, they stand out more if you compare it to the other lines or the other dials that's usually sunburst, the Stella dials. I guess that's their appeal that I could see for them. I don't hate them. I don't like them either. My taste is always pulled towards the sunburst because I just like playing with light. If it was like coarse dial, like you could really see the texture on it, then that's actually could take my interest. But seeing those Stella dials, they're just kind of smooth, matted finish, and I guess they're okay. They're tolerable.
Yeah, I think for Rolex, the Stella was smart. Obviously, they became very, very much in demand. But I'm more of a sunburst person. But
yeah, they became in demand because it's different from what you usually get from the OP line. Because most of them, if not all of them, are like sunburst, except for those like weird hexagonal textures, which is actually pretty cool. Also, I almost got one.
Oh.
Yeah, the AD called me about that. I had a video about that, but
that's right. I saw that one. Yeah,
I didn't have the money to for that month.
But you got the call.
I got that call. But a follow up on that.
Unfortunately, you didn't go for it, so your name's like off the list. Your name got pulled off the list and is put in a shoebox and stored.
That's the consequence now. Yeah, but the thing is, it seems that people get that kind of call for non-sports watches, sports Rolex anyway, so it's not really such a big deal. But I made it a big deal.
It's good content. People are always curious about the AD Rolex experience.
Well, it's a big deal to me. It's like the first time I got a call for a Rolex.
Yeah. Mine were all used back when you could get them cheaper used. So I never got a call. They were just like, "Hey, you want this? You want this Explorer too?" No one likes it.
I walked in when I got the stuff. It was off the display. I just wanted to buy something. It's really a trophy watch when I got mine. I mean, I got like this big project. I wanted to celebrate and have some sort of token remembrance of it. So I went to a Rolex boutique and bought what I wanted. And then I saw that they had like the no date sub or the OG sub, and I picked that. Back in the day, 2015.
Yes, back in the good old days. All right, so the poll on the Dippin' Dots Rolex was 40% loved it, and 40% were indifferent, and 20% just outright hated it. So
That's
The
it.
last Rolex, last watch I had pre-planned for us, and then we'll take a look at the Alpine because there was a request for it. Was this one? So this is probably the one that that I've seen get the most discussion amongst people. I think overall, maybe aside from the Daytonas, but everyone knew that the Daytona, because of the anniversary, was going to have a big thing, and so this one did surprise me a little bit. I think because of the Rolex Deep Sea, it's not surprised. I think everyone understood that that was a test for Rolex to do a titanium watch. It's just I didn't think they would do it for another year. So, and I didn't think they would do it in the Yachtmaster of all things as the first one
that's
first realistic watch to have, because the Deep Sea is practically impossible for human beings to wear. But this is practical. But the Yachtmaster is kind of like the gentleman-y Submariner, right? It's like it was always sort of the fancy pants Submariner, but titanium's not, to me, it's not a fancy pants metal, it's a tool metal. So I just thought it was a little weird. But Jayson, what were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm also surprised that it's on a Yachtmaster, but at the same time, that's like one of the most exciting releases because how Rolex doesn't just release such a surprise and such a new well, I guess because I'm kind of new to the watch game, that I've never seen Rolex like release a totally different material. Well, when they released that last year, I was like, okay, except for the RLX titanium, really Rolex RLX, I think I still can't get over that. They should have renamed it something else. But the thing is like, I mean, this is a Yachtmaster. I've always been like, it's either a Submariner or I'm going to get a Yachtmaster, and I think this is the one that I would really like to get if I could fork out the money. And the thing is, it's not just that they didn't just release it with a new material. They also put in like the ceramic sleeves in between the bracelet, so it's not gonna wear out or like stretch out in time like other Rolex bracelets, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that
I don't know if I don't know, because they usually they only do that for precious metal Rolex. Now they're using it on the titanium, which makes sense because it's a hard metal that has that ceramic sleeve. So, and I think that they're really positioning regatta as a real professional sports. I guess that's where they're trying to aim at. I think in JJ's watch hangout, a little plug there. They mentioned it on the night of the release, at the eve of the release, and they said that that is kind of makes sense because Rolex has always been pushing for these regatta competitions as the premier competition for water sports. So it makes sense that they're going to release it in a Yachtmaster, and I'm totally okay with that. Hopefully they do more, and I think they're going to do more of these RLX titaniums and elsewhere. Other collections, rather, not elsewhere. Other collections.
Yeah, and I think they will. I think I for something I hadn't even thought about. I like it. I could kind of see maybe the decision on Yachtmaster was just thinking, well, the Rolex sub is doing fine as stainless steel. We'll ease in even more. Like, we won't be expected to make as many Yachtmasters as subs. So, but this will be our first like broad scale wearable version and give it a try. I mean, it's attractive. It's kind of interesting because they've leaned so heavy like in precious metals and stuff lately that I think it's nice that they did something a little more tooly, but it's not, I'd probably still want a steel sub over this, but it's different. And, so I respect that they actually went and did something with a logical tool metal that they honestly probably should have been working with years ago. So those are my thoughts. Tony, what'd you think of it?
It's fine. I'm not a fan of the Yachtmaster to begin with, so I find I like titanium as a metal for a lot of things, but it doesn't do anything special for me.
Okay. Well, that will be the last poll we do because we're getting a lot of people in the chat asking for us to speed round some things and hit some other topics that we haven't done. So let me go ahead and close this last one out real quick so we can say where it stands. And loving the Titanium Yachtmaster 75%, don't care 25%. No one said they hated it. So okay, well, it's a pretty inoffensive one. So all right, so
Tudor, so Tudor's the inoffensive one.
Yeah, that's their motto. So we're pleased that Rolex didn't offend anyone. Well, didn't offend anyone there. Before I jump to the novelties from Chopard, which was the first one I've got. I'm trying to pay attention to everyone in the chat who's listed some things. I did want us to go ahead and touch on though, while we were kind of still talking about Rolex, what Boston Collector had pointed out here. It's kind of a lengthy one, but Rolex did do some discontinuations. I'd say the ones that got the most attention that I was aware of were the Milgauss and, of course, the discontinuation of the Cellini line, which, well, I don't think anyone really cared all that much, was notable. But they did also discontinue that meteorite dialed Daytona. Do you have any thoughts on any of those discontinuations? I think the one that probably upset the most people was the Milgauss. But I
wasn't happy with it, but I'm not surprised.
But I also think it was the one that like practically everyone expected. I did not. My prediction was that they were going to go ahead and revamp the Milgauss while they were revamping the Daytona. I just thought maybe they'd throw a new dial design on it and another color and call it a day. But obviously not. So Jayson,
I'm thinking
or Tony, go ahead.
I was just thinking on the Milgauss, I'm thinking we're a little sitting, 4 years from the 70th anniversary of the Milgauss?
I think you're right.
So my assumption on that is that they dumped the Milgauss to do a revamp and to give it a little rest time before they drop something big. I mean, the 70th anniversary, that's a pretty huge anniversary. So I mean, that's my guess on the matter. I know I'm not. I mean, I've said on a previous top, the Milgauss is my favorite Rolex. I really like it. So I really hope to see it come back. I know there's some vintage Milgausses that had that honeycomb dial. And for them to come back with a honeycomb dial on something like that, I would really like, because I thought it looked good on the vintage ones. But that's the hope.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's going to come back because I think I mentioned that in the video. If we saw the Air Cane come back, they discontinued it for a while, and then it came back with new crown guards and updated dial, and that's the Air King. You could argue that the Air King doesn't have any relevant or category that it emphasizes, because the Explorer has its own niche. The Explorer 2 is the same. Then the Submariners. So what's the Air King for? Yeah, I know that it's kind of like their aviation take. And the Milgauss, you could argue that is there a use for a Milgauss nowadays?
And that's where I've been at. It's like the magnetic resistance that it touts is obtained in all their other watches now. So it's not special in terms of its scientific purpose. Like that's what all the watches do.
Yeah, but the thing is like that doesn't seem to be the catalyst for Rolex to revamp a line anyway. But looking at what they did with the Air King, they discontinued it for a few years. I don't remember how many years, but then it came back. So I think the Milgauss still has a place, because people are looking at it and people are recognizing it as one of those touchstone watches, because it is a scientific. If there's the professional, there's the dressy categories for Rolex, and then the scientific one. I hope that there's more than just more scientific watches on Rolex collections other than just the Milgauss. But I think the Milgauss can come back, and why not in titanium too? That would make it even more, I guess, feasible. Seeing how titanium is also very anti-corrosive. So not only is it anti-magnetic, it's also anti-corrosive, which makes more sense for a scientific watch.
Yeah, this is an interesting theory. Another possibility is that Rolex might transfer the Milgauss to Tudor as a new line in the future. I think Rolex clear plan is push Suns up to 20K and Tudor sub to 20K. Okay. I wouldn't guess that they'd move the line over to Tudor outright. But I'd
They
still.
ever done that in the first place? Is there a precedence for that?
And that's why I couldn't. I wasn't aware, but maybe there's some. I mean, I know obviously there were the old Tudor. If we took a page out of old Tudor and been like, well, we're going to make Tudor versions of Rolex watches with different movements and stuff, and maybe using that as the precedence. But I wasn't. Since Tudor's bounced back in 2012, I wasn't aware of anything along those.
No, I
they
think
kind of seem to be in their own lanes. I think Rolex will bring back and I think Tony's right. I think it'll be for the big anniversary now, since they didn't just do a little revamp. And you may be right, Jayson, about them going ahead and doing it in something like titanium. Though I personally think, given how fast they moved on the Yachtmaster, that there will be at least one more model in titanium between now and the 70th anniversary for the Milgauss. The one thing that makes me wonder is just if the only thing going for the Milgauss anymore is that it's the quirky watch. And now we're getting Dippin' Dots, ball pit, oyster perpetuals, and puzzle piece, emoji con, day dates. If Rolex is like, we're fun now, guys. We don't need the Milgauss to kind of pretend like we're fun. We're really fun. Look, emojis.
Bro, here's slide rule Milgauss.
Oh, Breitling would be so mad.
But that's the epitome of a scientific watch.
That's true. That's true. And actually, it would be really interesting to see someone else kind of play in that space. Because again, if you say, slide rule watch, the only thing I think of is the Navitimer. But and no other major watch brand seems to compete in the space, and at least in the luxury watch brands. But
you never know.
And I did also notice on Boston's comment talking about Rolex just pushing up and bringing Tudor up to basically where Rolex is setting now, price point wise. I saw that mentioned elsewhere when I was doing some reading earlier this week, and some other people having the same thoughts, bringing them trying to push Rolex up to the next level and then slotting Tudor into Rolex's old space.
Yeah, and I see Boston's follow-up comment. That makes okay. I get it now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
the Black Bay Pro. So basically, taking the design, they give it its own name, but they take the design. It'd be like, oh, we know what this is. This is Tudor's version of the Milgauss. Call it that.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll call it the Black Bay Gauss, won't we? We know what they'll call it. Unless it's in titanium, then it's the Pelagauss.
Oh my gosh.
Come on, that was good. That was worth a like. Like the video. Like the video for my dad joke. Come on.
And that's all, folks. That's
basically all. It's all I got, baby. It's all I got. Before jumping to the chill part, I did also see we had someone ask us to go ahead and comment on the 40 millimeter version of the Explorer. So Rolex Explorer, it was 39 millimeters for a number of years. Then last year they rolled out the 36 millimeter. I think it was last year, not 2 years ago. And now they still have the 36. They didn't discontinue it, but now they've got the 40 millimeter version. Which, okay, I was surprised that they did it this quickly. I'm not surprised that it's 40 millimeters because they've already got cases that are 40 millimeters in size, and they seem to they moved out of all of their 39s now. I know a lot of people thought the 39 was the best size. So I have a 40 millimeter Explorer 2 and it wears pretty good. So I think 36 was too small to only do the 36 for such a popular model. So I think it made sense for them, but I don't personally care because I don't like the Explorer 1. It's a little too dull for me.
Yeah, same here. It's too vanilla for me.
And vanilla is a good word.
It's too vanilla. I mean, the thing is, I guess it's just a size correction because 36 to 39, why not push it for 40? At least they corrected that. That's the best that I could think. Why they even released a 40 millimeter Explorer? I don't see the hype around it. I know that there's like fans out there of the Explorer, And basically because of the Everest thing, also its heritage and whatnot. But then I'll stick with a 36 instead of 40. I mean, I have smaller wrists anyway, so.
Yeah, I would be comfortable with either size, but yeah, it's just not a dial design. I personally
Yeah, me neither. That's just this through the middle.
If I was going to get an
Sprinkles
Explorer,
are-
I would go bigger, but it's purely based upon wrist size. I don't actually have a 36. My smallest watch is a 38, and I can't imagine a 36 on my wrist because my 38 looks small on my wrist.
Yeah.
So
I actually like spiced it up. I put it on Oyster Flex. Then people commented, "Hey, Oyster Flex seems to be only on precious metals." Okay, well.
And I haven't looked closely enough at it to know about the lettering, in terms of what the font usage on the 40. I've not seen a single person that yet though say they thought the 40 looked better than the 39. 39 had a lot of, I mean, they kept it around for a long time for a reason.
Yeah, Boston Collector said that they should have done it in titanium to make more sense. I mean, that's what I did in my concept design in my video. I put it in the flex and then put it in titanium, put all of the brushings and the champers. The champers are returning on those titaniums. When they have those champers, it makes it interesting. Remember, this is grade 5 titanium, not just grade 2. So you can polish the actual case, which is a little bit more appealing. And then it looks different enough from the others.
Yes, yeah, and I agree with you that I think the Explorer would have been a much more logical watch to have jumped into for titanium as the first main line, not the Yachtmaster. But again, the Yachtmaster's less popular watch too, so I'm wondering if they're worried about some aspect of the production, or they just the puzzle watches and dip and dot ball pits aside, they're still a highly conservative company, and I think they're playing it very, very safe with rolling out the titanium cases. Okay. I've pushed it off like 12 times now. So we had a couple questions about Chopard. I always want to say Chopard and it's wrong. It's Chopard. So Chopard, a couple watches to talk about. The one most people wanted us to discuss is actually the Alpine Eagle 41 XPS, which I think I did throw a video together on this because I've always liked the Alpine Eagles. I don't, some watches I look at them and I think this looks too much like you're wanting to be a Royal Oak, or too much like you're wanting to be a Nautilus. And I can see the DNA here with, we got the screw heads like a Royal Oak, but it's a round bezel, and we got the kind of the edge of the profile, which is kind of like a Nautilus. But I don't know, it just works for me. And their dials have always been the main thing that I've always caught my eye. And at last, they've given us this. What I like about this watch is we finally have an Alpine Eagle. It has no date whatsoever, and I think the small seconds looks even better than the central seconds does, which is what we normally see on an Alpine Eagle. So personally, I loved this release. I like it. It's my favorite one of all the Alpine Eagles I've seen. And I like the watches. I just don't like the price point on this because it's about. It's I'll find the pricing. I think it's running like $8,000 more than the regular ones. Yeah, it's $22,500 US.
Wow. So, is this white gold?
No, it's a steel.
Okay. Well, it is LUC. Yeah, that's.
I mean, I like the dial. It looks great. I mean, the watch looks amazing, but now we're still talking the same kind of. When you start talking that price range, is that enough for this price range and what you get? And,
this is a micro rotor, right?
Yes. They slimmed this watch up another almost a millimeter or so, I think more. Let's see, I can get you a picture of it. But yeah, it does have the micro rotor.
Oh, it's 3.3 millimeters thick. Wow.
That's the movement, not the watch.
Okay, that's the movement.
The watch is like 8 millimeters thick, though. It's super thin.
That's
and for an automatic, I mean, they can do that because of the micro rotor. But yeah, but I think this is a standard movement that they've used before. And someone was worried about a ghost date, which I couldn't imagine at this price point. But someone else had commented on one of my videos and had mentioned that they watched the interview with Chopard's director, and they said no, they took out the date function. So it's the same movement as they've been using in the Alpine Eagles, but because it doesn't, I assume because of the lack of the date function and not needing to accommodate the disc, they were able to slim the watch up even more. So yeah, it's like an 8 or an 8.
Can you imagine if a $22,000 watch with
that was? I was like, my initial reply, because I couldn't find it, and I pulled a couple articles up and I couldn't find it. I was like, Stova doesn't do that. They take out the ghost date on their $1,000 to $2,000 watches. I couldn't imagine Chopard would ever. You'd be like the laughing stock of Geneva, but then I thought, but what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? I don't want to say that it doesn't if I don't know for sure. So
but this is a Geneva seal, right? This is an LUC, so it has to be Geneva seal, right?
Oh, yes. It's
an
LUC. Their LUC 96.40-L.
I think this is a Geneva seal. If you, I don't know. Let me look it up. But I mean, that's a big no-no. They won't be approved for a Geneva seal. Was they?
Yeah, I don't know if it was listed as a. I can Geneva. It's
that's like a long list of requirements. So
okay, I'm not familiar with them. So with the requirements, I'll have to read.
Oh, it is Geneva seal. There you go.
Okay, all right, problem solved. Thank you, Jayson.
Yeah.
So everyone, spend your 22,500 with confidence.
Yes, spend easy.
What we're saying. Yes. All right. So another one that got pointed out also was the 1860. Which I looked at as well at first, actually, because the dials, when I first looked at them, small seconds and sort of the same color, I was like, oh wait, when I'm looking at the same watch. This is a 36.5 millimeter watch though, but this is their dress watch one that they've done. So the dial, salmon colored, solid gold dial. This case is still steel. It's that lucent steel they have. It's that
this is also lucent steel. Okay.
Yeah, they're both lucent steel. So that's an alloy.
That's actually pretty good. I've handled one, and it looks different enough. It's kind of like 904, but a little bit more shiny, I guess.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know it's an alloy. I don't know what the difference is that they put into it, other than I know they use a lot of recycled materials for it, but I don't know I don't know the composition. Like I think 904L has more, more nickel in it to make it less corrosive, which that's what Rolex likes to use, and Ball watches uses a lot of 904.
I'll just say because you sound more formal when you talk than I do. So yeah, that's true.
So, Tony, I don't know what you probably hadn't looked at this one ahead of time. Well, maybe you did.
I'd seen it in passing, but I had not gone deep on this one. I'd looked at the Alpine Eagle, but I hadn't looked at the 1860 very much. I like the dial. I think it's lovely. I don't think it really comes to my standard taste, but I think it looks good for what it is.
I see Boston Collector has brought up one that I'm gonna try and bring up. Yeah, the Antarctique. I did look at the which one are we thinking about? Are we thinking about if we want to talk about the new ones, we could go ahead and jump to the sector dial one. I think that's the one I saw get the most exposure. Antarctiques, they change the dial quite a bit every time. And I think how is this brand pronounced? Is it Chopek? I think it's Chopek.
Chopek.
Okay. I looked it up 3 times once because I was trying to do something. I was like, why am I keep calling it Sapek? I just made it up. Which I liked this one. But I like sector dials. I've always wanted to find a sector dial I can get behind. And the problem is most of the popular ones, like the Longines sector dial, they do where they crop the hour Arabic numerals, and I just can't get into it. Because that's a dentist problem. But this I really like the look of a lot. This was limited though. This is a 100-piece limited, and it was not. They added like 10 grand to the price for this titanium version versus the steel ones.
It's titanium. Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, this one's titanium.
And this
Tony,
is the price point?
I'll confirm it, but I thought it was around 30.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't. I hadn't looked at this one at all. Preceding this, I kind of like it. It has a very I don't know what the right word I want to use for it, but it's got a very distinctive feel to it. I mean, sectors always do, but this one in particular kind of stands on its own a little bit.
Je ne sais quoi. That's French for je ne sais quoi.
I could barely use that phrase.
I don't think I've.
I
ever
know the
used
phrase,
it
but
with
I
watch.
couldn't like in a casual conversation use it on the fly.
No,
I have to like script myself,
no.
like Google Translate and make sure that I spell it right, even though it's just a script.
No, it's a term only used in the darkest of pastime live streams. That's about the only instance we can work that one in. So let's see. I didn't see an article on. I'm checking a blog to watch. Yeah, 36,000 US. That's the price.
Okay, that's
and I think that's over
quite a bit.
10,000 on top of the other. Granted, this one's limited.
There you go. Well,
but
let me ask you this: which one would you get, the Alpine Eagle or the 1908 by Rolex?
Oh, Alpine Eagle for me.
Yeah, same here. For that price, and
For that price,
yeah,
absolutely.
And we're getting a Geneva sealed watch.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a high specification grade watch. It's to me, the Alpine Eagle is so distinct. Like it doesn't look like any other watch. It's an integrated sports style, which I don't have. I used to have a PRX, but I don't have that anymore. And the 1908, for as handsome of a watch as it is, it'll get lost amongst the Patrimonies and the Calatravas and the Saxonias. And I would rather have those three before that. Even though I think it is a nice looking piece.
Same here. And then the Alpine Eagle is like a sleeper of a watch. Many people like when they see it, it's kind of different. It's kind of like a cliche, you have to handle the watch on your for you to pass judgment on it. But this really does look different when it's in your hand. It looks that the proportion. It's the how do they call it? Because when you look at it in a flat image, it has a different personality compared to when you have it like 3-dimensional on your hand. It has a different sheen. The designs are totally different compared to what they're saying. Like it looks like a Royal Oak or like those Jetta designs and all that because of the screws. You don't see that at all. You just focus. You laser focus on the dial once you see it, and that's enough for you to pass judgment that hey, this is different, and it actually is worth that money. Of course, buy it in pre-owned instead of in retail. You'll probably be able to get it at a discount still, right? I mean, I don't think that it's
no. I think, and I don't know if he's still in the live chat, and if I'm remembering right, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think Scott has an Alpine Eagle. I think he owns one, and I want to think he mentioned like in terms of like when you go, you can find them at discount. So, but I mean, he can comment if that's the case. Otherwise, I'm mixing them up with someone else, which is quite possible given the state of my brain right now. We did have and it was a while back. So as I scroll through, some people wanted to know if we had any other thoughts on some of the other brands that we didn't touch on, like Zenith, for example. I'm going to see.
Zenith, yeah, the ceramic ones that they have, the ceramic skylines.
Right,
those are pretty cool. And I think they're less than a 10 grand, right? I think that.
I think they were around that. Yeah. Let's see.
Around that. Okay.
Pilot automatic ceramic, or were you thinking the skeleton?
No, on the skyline, the Defy skyline. Yeah. There. And that's pretty cool. That's ceramic.
I want the other one. I got fooled because the person's wearing clothes and not. Well, not that they were wearing clothes. Sorry, not that it was. No, I was not fooled. That
wrong website, Dennis.
Yeah, it's the wrong. Yeah, okay, we're all. Yeah, Watch Hub. So, all right, there we go. There's a picture of it. And I'll find out
that looks
some
nice.
Pricing on it.
Yeah,
yes, I typically lean towards the more like El Primero chronograph style with Zenith, but I found myself looking a lot at their Defy line again and again because that seems to be like where they have all their fun and do their creativity. So,
I think I was gonna say I like this, but I think I prefer the Revival Shadow over this one. The Defy Revival Shadow. That's the one that caught my eye out from Zenith when I went through things originally. That's the titanium one.
Yeah.
With
the other angular.
Yeah, very angular with 4 o'clock date.
I prefer this one compared to that.
Yeah, I did too.
It was the bottom one. I'm pointing at my screen just like Jayson was earlier.
Oh my gosh!
Like
guys,
you can see where I'm pointing. It's right here, Dennis. It's right there. Click right there, Dennis. Click right there.
I feel your passion, but I can't see anything. All right, there you go. There it's. Yeah, I got it. It's interesting. I mean, interesting. So that's
down nice, Dennis.
That's the poison pill. It's crap.
It's interesting.
What was Zenith thinking?
This is the stream of mottos. The stream of watch mottos. Tudor's like unoffensive.
So all right. First of all, it's gonna piss off half the collectors because it's got the 430 date and they can't get behind it. This one's a $7,400 watch though. That's a revival shot.
A little bit more. This is ceramic too, right?
No, this is titanium.
Oh, titanium. Sorry. Okay. I still prefer the other one, the Skyline.
I prefer I prefer it too. Just the more traditional style kind of. It's what I think of when I think of a Dayfi. It's that kind of configuration. But they're both different. There's that.
Zenith, it's different.
Zenith looks like a Rado.
Like, interesting.
It's like it's just a Rado clone. It's a Rado homage, a romage. Terrible.
No, but that Skyline seconds, that's like 1/5 of a second. No, wait, I think 1/20th of the second. That's just when you see it in real time. It's like it's mesmerizing.
Right, because they use the El Primero movement on it to do the 1/10 of a second, which I thought was
1/10 or one.
It's 1/10. It's 1/10.
Okay.
So yeah, it's the same movement they've been sticking in the new Chronomaster Sport. So yeah, it's a whip around once every 10 seconds.
It's kind of like a mini tourbillon, you know.
It is, but. You see, here's the thing with the chronograph, you get it. You can time things to 1/10 of a second, which is super practical. And then this is just like, this is not practical at all. We're just going to stick it in here and it's just going to be cute. And I'm like, but how do I tell when I'm on second 12? I'm going to get mixed up.
Well,
I'm just trying to figure out how often someone needs to time things to the 10th of a second.
Yeah, there you go. We're not all referees in football or something.
Look, when I'm trying to carry the groceries in, with all on one load with one set of arms, every 10th of a second counts to know if I'm a winner or if I'm going to drop the milk and it's going to explode.
And how many tenths of a second did you lose looking at your watch to make sure you were on time?
Look, there are prices to be paid for the precision that we were asking for. And right now I can't tell because none of my watches do better than 1/8 of a second. Very disappointed in all of them.
Sounds like a wife problem to me.
Yeah. I see Boston says best value watch might be the Bulgari Octoroma.
Mm-hmm.
I think I only glanced briefly at Bulgari so far.
Yeah. I've tested one in our AD. That's the only one that fit for me. The Octofinissimo, it's just this bracelet's too wide for my wrist. So.
Oh, is it? Okay. Because that's I think the Octofinissimo seems to be the one that gets all kind of out of Bulgari's lineup, gets all the.
I understand.
Which and the thinness like they go for a lot of them is really cool. So.
Yeah. But it's
all right. Were there any other brands anyone wanted to touch on before we end this?
Well, at first I wanted to talk about Hublot. They released a 3-piece. Collection, sapphire and ceramic. The square ones are they big bangs also? I forgot the names.
Well, let's see. There's the Tourbillon bi-axis retrograde, which is not a big bang. Then there's the big bang integrated tourbillon for
it's
full
a square
carb,
one.
Which you probably love because it's got tourbillon in
it. Probably. There you go. The square.
This one.
The square one.
No, down.
You know yeah.
You want the sapphire or the ceramic?
Yeah,
These
sapphire.
are.
Go get the sapphire because we don't have time to talk about all three of them. I think that's interesting.
Okay, these are called square bangs apparently.
Yeah.
So I guess
square bangs. Oh wow.
They're inspired by the Big Bang, but different because they're square.
Well, wait a minute. Scroll back up for a second.
No, I can't. I already clicked. All
We're
right,
already past it. We're already gone. So inspired by the Basins iconic Big Bang, the Square Bang adds a new pillar, the shaped collection, to set alongside the spirit of Big Bang.
I like this.
Wow. I want to know who they paid to come up with that just line.
I love it because what I love about it is that it implies that round wasn't a shape. And only now have they embraced shape. But round watches are shapeless. They're very sad, and they're very sad. All right, so apparently this is the one photo they have of it. I keep clicking on the same two things trying to find more photos.
Yeah, I think Monochrome had like all three of them.
All right,
but anyway, I find this interesting, at least for Hublot. I mean, we've seen already Hublot. Actually, they also released a full sapphire, blue sapphire Big Bang. Also, I saw Waco promoting it, but this one caught my eye more because I actually reviewed one of their Mecha 10s, and they actually had to redesign the movement because the movement is round and they had to fit it in a square shape. I mean, it kind of sounds logical because it's easier to fit a round movement on a square case, but they really actually had to redesign the movement so that it doesn't look like roundish inside. So they had to so that they could occupy all of the corners, because that's usually the problem when you fit a round caliber in a square case. The corners would be empty spaces, but apparently they redesigned the whole movement to occupy all of the space. I guess that goes to show that Hublot always gets a bad rap because of using or like making minimal changes on their movements, even ETAs before, but they could do it if they wanted to, because they focus, they say, fusion of materials and technology and watchmaking, and this is the more watchmaking side while housing it in a eccentric case.
Yeah, they've had some stuff I've actually found fairly interesting. So many of their watches, though, skewed so large that I always kind of sized out on them. And then, of course, the reputation is such, like I don't know, everyone seems to hate on them for all. But they do that to Tag too, and there's some tags I really on the Heuer side at least of Tag that I really like. I don't know about an NFT watch, but
that's just us, the small watch circles that actually have that kind of negativity. But if you look at the general public who don't follow watches, Hublot's a big thing. I know I'm reviewing his Casio soon. I have a friend who also has a Hublot, and he was surprised because he started watching my videos. He was surprised that there's such a stigma against Hublot, but where he came from in Latin America, it's a big thing. When you have a Hublot, it's kind of like a Rolex to them. And also that I know the same in the Philippines. Hublot is also like something big until now. The social media's caught on, but it used to be.
Yeah. But their strategy worked. He brought that company back and got it popular. What the community or the collectors or the small discussing groups, what we think is, it's the same thing with the whole date, like date window discussions. Like why is everything from Omega got a date window except like the Speedmaster? And it's like, well, people want dates on their watches. It's just us who want symmetry, who whine about dates corrupting it. But that's what sells, or else they would have shifted away years ago from providing it.
Yeah.
All right. I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Jayson, thank you so much for coming on and participating. Plug away. Where's your channel? I have it in the description of the video, but you could verbally say it.
Thank you for everyone watching. Just watch Dennis. Don't go to my channel. Don't bother.
What? No, go and ask him questions like, how can you compare things? How could you? How dare you?
If you go to my channel, you'll be banned from the show. at least for 35. No, I mean, my channel's Design Atelier. It's originally given birth to talk about design, but then I switched to watches, and then now I just talk about like nonsensical things rather than design. So do whatever you may call it, if it's a channel and whatnot, that's the name. Many people are asking me to change the name to Jayson DeCastro, but I'm not a channel, so
I've noticed a few. Yeah, I've noticed a few other watch people renamed their channels to just their names. But maybe they're brands now. I don't know. Because
yes, and I'm not.
Did you file the proper paperwork to become a brand?
No.
So there's the problem. You need to brand yourself.
But I am registered in Aruba, so whenever you're in Aruba, you cannot use design or atelier in any sentence at all. So make sure that you're extradited somewhere else other than Aruba.
Well, yes, Jayson knows that's not a problem for me because I have failed to pronounce atelier right every single time I have tried it. And he finally told me, just call me Jayson. Quit trying to say the channel name.
But
I was just like, okay, thank you. I promise. I would go to Google and I click the how to pronounce it. It'd be atelier, and I'd be like atelier, and I'd be like. You should be super impressed. I could say je ne sais quoi. I mean, that was years of training. Years.
Even Oshin is like giving me flack for that. But why did you call it atelier? But I don't know. I'm just like,
and then
it's like
it's good. It's fitting actually because I've seen other, as I've watched other watch things now, they'll sometimes say, yes, this maison with out of this atelier, and I was like, okay, so it's actually a thing. I thought it was like some Aruba thing. I didn't know. So.
Definitely not.
So yes, check out Design Atelier if you have not already. It is a very interesting channel. Your visual style, if for nothing else, is a good enough reason for people to go and watch it. Tony, you have no visual style yet.
I have no visual style.
You're an audio style.
I'm an audio style. I can be found talking to Dennis and others about watches occasionally on his channel, and most of my stuff is part of the Eclectic Gamers podcast. Talking about pinball machines and video games,
and sometimes
tabletop,
sometimes chess,
possibly. Maybe.
We had a request to cover chess, and I was like, "That's a Tony topic." Last time someone Queen Gambited me, I quit playing forever. So,
yeah, but yeah, there's not a lot of. I mean, I don't have channels of my own. I maybe should create one. I should think about this. Figure out what I want to actually do with it.
If you're not in Aruba, you could call yourself Design and Atelier in the same sentence, but you might need some other words in there.
I could call it so it's easier for you to pronounce. I could call it Design Anthe and an A, and then it kind of matches my name.
That's even worse than my joke earlier. That is worse. You can, if you liked this video, you can unlike it now and to counter.
Yeah, no, it's my fault. I accept it. I take the blame. That's fine. I'm used to it.
No, Dennis did it first.
I did. But did I do it worse? That's the main question.
There you go.
So yes, there's a link to the podcast in the video description as well. And I'm Dennis, who hosts Watches with Dennis. I'm just a collector. This is just a hobby channel that I do. Sometimes I live stream. Sometimes we play tots, this or that. We'll put another one together here at some point. But I was on vacation and then I had work conferences. And now, of course, we got Watches and Wonders. And I thought this would be far more relevant than trying to pick which of 5 different Vacherons is the better Vacheron. So.
Excuses.
And the answer is the Vacheron.
Yes. Yep, it was. The answer was with Jayson. The answer would be the Tourbillon Vacheron. With Tony, it would be whatever the largest case Vacheron there was. And with mine, it would be whatever one looked least like it was trying to clone a Royal Oak. So, I mean, those would be the picks. We're pretty predictable at this. But anyway, thanks everyone who tuned in live. If you watched the recording, I hope you enjoyed it. And otherwise, I'll talk to you on a future video. But take care, everybody.
Thank you.